See you in your seat. I'm sorry, taking it back with it. Madam Deputy Speaker, like just about every member who's spoken today in the chamber, I'm standing up on behalf of the 110 homes in my constituency that have been flooded, the 55 businesses and the 200 homes that have been evacuated over the last 2 or 3 weeks as these storms have been passing through. It is unbelievably unpleasant when you suddenly find your home being flooded, particularly a couple who moved into a new house on the first Saturday of the storms only to find themselves flooded by the Sunday, which was quite unfortunate for them. But I do, before I really get into the meat of my speech, just want to speak up for those people who put themselves at risk in order to keep us safe when they come out and help us. The Environment Agency are an extraordinary bunch of people who work incredibly hard in my constituency and do so with an efficient kindness of the local population who are seeing their homes flooded, and they go around with the most extraordinary gentle efficiency, making people feel both relaxed and helped at the same time. The Severn Area Rescue Association is a team of volunteers who cover the whole of the River Severn area and who go out through in appalling conditions, who go and again risk their lives in order to keep all of us safe. And SARA is an organisation that I have an enormous amount of respect for. And of course we have all those people who are professionally involved, the police, the Hereford and Worcester Fire Authority, and of course the local council, all of whom are looking after us very well. I would also, by the way, just like to say a big thank you to the ministers who've been involved in this. I know there's been a lot of criticism over the last weeks that the Prime Minister has not been involved in this, but my experience of engagement with the government through this crisis has been that I've seen not only the Secretary of State getting in touch with me on a regular basis, but the Floods Minister was within my constituency up to her knees in floodwater within 24 hours of the water hitting. I'm incredibly grateful for their support, as with the Bellwyn funding. My main town of Bewdley is a town which really epitomises the problems that we have within flood defences across the country. On the left-hand bank, on the western bank, we have £11 million worth of demountable flood barriers, which were put in by, I think, one of the finest leaders of the Labour Party, Mr Tony Blair, in 2001. And my community is eternally grateful for the Right Honourable Member for Sedgefield. It has done an amazing job and it protects the best part of 300 houses. But on the eastern side, on the Ribbonhall side, we have 27 or so homes in Beals Corner that have up until now been protected by temporary flood barriers. But after the last flooding, property-level flood barriers were put in place. And this was the first time those property-level flood barriers have been tested. It's interesting, what we tend to forget with the temporary flood barriers is they are incredibly dangerous. On the first Tuesday of these events, I was out at 11 o'clock at night watching the local services, getting ready to clear up after the barriers were expected to break down. And even if they stand fast, they're on tarmac, and the tarmac is not waterproof, so water comes up behind these flood barriers. And it's worth bearing in mind that 2 or 3 floods ago, somebody managed to nick the pump that was pumping the water out. It is unbelievable that somebody would do that in this type of event. But the point about this is that the economics of this don't quite stack up. Whilst you spend £11 million protecting 300 or so houses on one side of the river, on the other side of the river, it is not deemed worthwhile spending £5 million to protect 20 or 30 houses and keep the whole town open without losing the use of the bridge. There is some strange mathematics that goes on in terms of trying to work out whether it's worth investing this money. And what I fear is that there is more value put on a London property where the real estate value is some 10 times what it is in Bewdley than it is in other parts of the country. But we must never forget that even though you're making the calculations based on the real estate value, it is not the house that we're looking at in terms of its value, it's the home that it provides for an individual. And we must remember that it's a family's home, it's not a bit of real estate, so we must get this right. So we need to have another look and see what's going to happen, and I'm very keen to have a lessons learnt exercise.